Hello everyone, Fancy here. You're watching Fantavision, and today, talking about GameStop. It's been like 3 weeks, I believe, since I talked about GameStop last. Trying to keep it fresh. I know some people are getting sick of hearing about GameStop, so I'm trying to put the stories farther out from each other so it's more interesting. So, like, for instance, there'll probably be another College Chronicles pretty soon. I need to get Steve in here so we can shoot it. Let me get all the intro stuff out of the way. Drinking some Citradelic, again, by New Belgium. It's delicious, wonderful. So today, I am discussing a topic that actually, again, I'm getting a lot of these ideas from you guys because you're wanting to see it. So I'm like, okay. So you guys were wondering, were there, or just talk about, because obviously they were, talk about the different employees that broke the rules and the different rules that these employees would break, stuff like that. So obviously I've talked about coworkers before. I've talked about a couple of them who've been fired. Obviously stealing is no duh. If you guys don't remember, it's a very old episode. One of my coworkers was fired because he got caught cashing out the pre-orders. He would wait until the store was closed and then he would just start going through the list of old pre-orders and just cashing them out because he figured, hey, this is super old. Nobody's going to come in and try to collect their money for it. Otherwise, they would have already. So one time, somebody came in to cash out their old pre-order, and I was like, I was there for that, and I was like, oh, it's already been cashed out. And they looked at me like, no, it hasn't. And I'm like, what? So then the manager checked the camera. You know the story. So what other rules did people break that they didn't necessarily get fired for, but were definitely against store policy? And the thing is there are quite a few store policies that were just stupid that even my manager didn't care if we broke. We had some stickler managers, like I talked about in my managers episode. I had a ton of managers while I was working at GameStop. The turnover rate and the frequency in which they move the managers around is very high. So we had a lot of different rules that would change. Some of them would be not there anymore. Like, we weren't allowed to check out games sometimes. Sometimes we were with certain managers, or if it was a new game. The rules just kept changing, at least when it came to kind of like internal rules. So some of them that were broken were allowed by the managers, or I just ignored them because it was really frustrating. For instance, I was technically breaking the rule by turning down the volume of the TV in the store, even though I had many customers when I was working there go, I like this store the best because it's not blaring in your ears. And I'm like, I know, that's why I turn it down, because I have to hear that all freaking day. Same with all the demo units, because my store had a lot of demo units, which again, I believe I've discussed demo units, but I still want to note it's very weird that I don't see game demos in like any stores nowadays. At least my two local stores don't even have demo units. Really strange. That's something you think wouldn't go away. I mean, that's pretty important. If a customer wants to try out some games, I guess they just figure if they want to download the demo, they can do it at home. I don't know. Really, really interesting that I'm seeing less of them. Maybe there's more in your area. I don't know. But I would turn down the volume on all those different units. And I would also, if there was like a popular multiplayer game during this time, if we had a used copy, I would put it in one of the systems. I know that just sounds like it makes sense. We want to sell this game. We want people to try it. But technically, we weren't allowed to do that. But my manager didn't care. So there were lots of different things that I did that my manager didn't really care about, or he didn't care enough to actually get mad at me. He knew I was turning down the TV every single time I opened, and he'd give me a little like, really? And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to stop doing this because it's ridiculously loud. And after a while, he kind of came around and went, you're right, but don't turn it too low. Otherwise, the district manager will notice. So, because he was crazy. So we also had, rules about not using your phone, obviously. Nobody stuck to that, thankfully. I know that's probably a corporate rule not to use your phone while on the floor, but literally everybody, including the managers, they didn't care. I didn't care when I was managing. My store manager didn't care when he was there. Use your phone. Just if there's customers, help the customers, obviously. That's all there is to it. I was probably technically breaking a rule when I was playing Pokemon Ruby. I beat Pokemon Ruby while I was working there. They didn't care. I had many managers and staff that were like, whatever. And then when I was managing someone, they're like, are you playing Pokemon right now? And I'm like, the store's dead. Who cares? I mean, it's either play Pokemon or just stare at the wall or set up the basketball game with two opposing NPCs and root for a team out of boredom. I mean, that's the sort of stuff we did out of boredom. So another thing that we usually did was go off camera and just kind of chill. I mean, just sit on the floor if there's nobody in for a while. I mean, standing for like 7 to 8 hours straight with like maybe a lunch in the middle, it wears on your legs. It's probably not good for you even. So we would take a seat occasionally, and you're off the camera, you're not in the customer's view, so even if a customer came in, you could stand up and then appear around the corner, because there was this, I think it was the PSP games were right there. So the PSP games are tall enough and you couldn't see through them. But whenever we hear the beep, we'd hear a customer coming in, stand up, help them out. It's not like we're sitting in the corner not helping customers, but the store manager definitely didn't like that we did that, even though, like I said, it didn't affect anybody. Or I would just I was alphabetizing the bottom rows of all of the different sections, because the used games and the new games would constantly get screwed up because we've got all these games that are showing their spine because they don't fit, being faced anymore, if you know what I mean. So I would just sit down and just alphabetize the games because A, I'm doing something that's good, B, I get to take a seat. So that was technically not breaking the rules, that was just a way around the rules. Another rule I think was set by corporate, but again, my managers did not care, is that those little freebies you get for pre-ordering back when you actually got physical objects when you pre-ordered stuff, like the Lego games, you get a little minifig. The animal or Harvest Moon games, you constantly get like a stuffed animal. But we would constantly have so many extras of these keychains and Lego people and stuffed animals that we would just take them home. I mean, the game came out, no one's going to be able to pre-order it anymore. Sometimes we would save the items just a little bit longer to kind of reward customers that were doing extra pre-orders or buying said game and something else, or it was a little kid buying Harvest Moon. We're like, oh, here's a little stuffed animal. So we would save them for quite a while, probably about a month after the game came out, and then after that, we'd just take it home. It's that simple. I mean, technically, again, that's against the rules, but it's just going to be thrown away. So I would just give out all the Lego people to my friends, and I think the other manager would bring home the stuffed animal to his like kid nieces and whatnot. So it all went to good use instead of being wasted in the garbage can. I mean, there are plenty of those cases that you can think of that were technically breaking the rules, but who really cares? Like, we're supposed to throw away these strategy guides after they're pennied out, which is when they're discontinued, no longer going to be sold because they're taking up space. They're not moving anymore, which is why most of these strategy guide companies have gone under, because we really didn't sell any of these things. So when they penny out, we just take them home. I remember one of my coworkers, he had this insane library of strategy guides. I have boxes of strategy guides somewhere. I don't know. I don't know where they went, but that was another thing that was technically breaking the rules, but it was like, I don't want to just throw these away. What you're supposed to do is rip off the covers and throw it in the trash, but we didn't want to do that. And that's why I'm so shocked whenever I hear about people dumpster diving and finding these things, is because the GameStop I worked at, we just took everything home. So, and anything that wasn't being taken home, like guitars and those skateboards and stuff like that, we'd smash the hell out of them, because why not? It's fun. It's going to the dumpster anyway. Now, I did keep a couple guitars because, like, especially the wireless ones, I'd keep the wireless ones because it just felt like a waste. I mean, this is a good guitar. Well, it's not a real guitar. This is a good plastic controller. I'm not gonna waste it. I'm not gonna throw this away. The older like PS2 ones, I'm like, whatever. Now I kind of regret it, but it was fun smashing them and pretending you're a rock star and smashing the guitars in the back, and I don't know, it was good stress release. More notable things that were against the rules were people taking drugs. One person was just prescription medication. That doesn't really count. But another person was taking prescription medication, but he didn't have the prescription. And I didn't know that until later on, and he was the same guy, again, that was cashing out the register. I don't think you're supposed to be popping Vicodin on the job. I don't think that's, I think that's against the rules a little bit. Also, what was against the rules was sometimes a coworker or myself, usually a coworker, I didn't really do this very often, would check out a game and you're only supposed to keep it for a certain amount of days, but we just keep signing out the same game over and over and over, or we say we have a different game when we don't, just so we can keep it going. And it was usually a game that didn't matter. Like, only one time was it really an issue, and that was when we really cracked down and made sure, okay, well, we'll set some boundaries here of when we can check out games for extended periods of time. But besides that, it wasn't really that big of an issue checking out games. Some things that have to do with breaking the rules, again, I was allowed to do by several managers. I think even the store manager allowed me to do this. This was before GameStop took in old stuff. I would just buy the old stuff off of people outside. I would clock out, go outside with them, and I bought like GameCube games. I bought Sega Genesis stuff. Somebody sold me a 3DI. I mean, just the weirdest stuff. I think I got Conker's Live and Reloaded for the Xbox. I got one of those special edition red Target Game Boy Advances. I got a lot of really cool stuff for really cheap because these people were looking to just get rid of it. And they just were just giving it away, basically. I mean, GameStop would have made a lot of money back then. I understand why they're taking old stuff now. But back when they weren't, I was killing it. I was killing it. It was awesome. Also, along that lines, we're not allowed to take tips or anything like that. But sometimes people would just leave us money and leave, so we couldn't give it back to them. And those are definitely the coolest people, because we would help them out with some like tech issue they were having with whatever console, and then we'd fix it up for them. They'd say thanks. They give us a tip. We say, well, we can't take this. We're just helping out. It's fine. And they're like, well, that's too bad. You're going to eat some pizza on me. And they'd leave. Some of the nicest people I definitely did meet while working there. I know I talk about how many bad customers there are, but there definitely were the hidden gem customers throughout my experience at GameStop. I mean, some people gave me video games. It was crazy. Like, there was some people that just did not care, or they did care about the workers, and they're like, I'm not going to be using this, or I know you just helped me out, so I'm going to help you out. And that's really cool, So some faith in humanity is definitely restored while working there. But there's a lot of people that break it down that I've talked about in these videos. Another thing that I didn't witness any of my coworkers doing, but I did hear about other stores and people I had worked with. So I guess they're coworkers, but they're working at different stores. They got in trouble or fired. I don't remember correctly, but they were moving old pre-orders to new pre-orders while the customer was there. They would basically not tell the customer that they had old pre-orders. And the thing is if you cancel even an older pre-order, it goes against the person that is on the register at that moment who's getting canceled on, even though I believe it's a couple weeks after the pre-order is made and the game comes out. A couple weeks after the game is out, if they haven't picked up the pre-order, it's already a cancellation for the store. Really strange how that works out, but the person working would not want to get the cancellation, so they would just move it to something new that they thought they might like. It's really weird and sketchy shit. Or they wouldn't tell the customer that there was some game pre-ordered, and they would either use most of the credit and move $5 over, or I don't know. There's a lot of weird things that people would do. Another thing that was against the rules for a while was not telling the customer about the digital and the print edition of the Game Informer. And when the print, or the digital rather, was first coming out, we were expected to hit a certain number of digital, which really pissed me off because I'm always more of a, physical person. I feel like Game Informer digitally, like what's the point, You just read IGN, you can read GameSpot, well, back then you could read game trailers. There were so many different websites that did what Game Informer did, but Game Informer was a magazine, and because it's in that format, you get more artistic stuff, you get really cool covers, you get exclusive, I guess you get the same exclusive interviews on the digital version, but it's just, to me, when I'm going to the bathroom, I like a physical magazine, So that's why I liked the physical Game Informers, because you could just store it there by the trash can or put it underneath your sink. You're good to go. I know everybody's like, well, you just use your cell phone, Fanta. What are you talking about? Just go on Twitter and Reddit or whatever. But back then, when I didn't know about Reddit and Twitter really wasn't much of a thing, I used Game Informer, in the bathroom. I would just be sitting there, flipping through pages, reading reviews, reading interviews. That's how I got a lot of my gaming news. I mean, I got a lot through, IGN and GameSpot, but I don't know, just something about reading a physical magazine was just, I think it's just because it's nostalgic, because when I was a kid, they didn't have all these online things. So I would read the magazines, and it was just such a cool thing to get a new magazine every month. It's a thing being delivered to your door, and that's always exciting. I mean, that's why people order so much shit off of Amazon. You know what you ordered. It's not a surprise. But when it gets to your door, you get this little dopamine rush as you're opening up, and oh, I got my item. Yeah, it's great. That was the same thing with Game Informer. I knew I was getting a gaming magazine, but it was better than a loot box because A, it's not a ripoff or a scam, and B, it just had like lots of great information in it. So I don't know. It was always interesting to find out what new games are going to be covered that month and what was coming out soon and what exclusive things they got their hands on. Looking at all the different pictures and developer interviews. I loved it. I still like getting a magazine in the mail, and I get why some people prefer digital when it comes to the magazine subscription. Some people really do use it. But most of the time when people were getting the Game Informer digitally, it's because they didn't want the Game Informer at all. They're like, so how do I not get this magazine? I'm like, you don't want it? And they're like, no, I don't want the magazine at all. I'm like, well, you have to have something, but digital is basically nothing. So like, okay, I'll go with digital. That was most of the time when people would be prompted. But during this time, the employees were not prompting these people. They just gave them a digital subscription. I had this happen to a couple of my friends. They didn't get it done to me, or they didn't get done to them at my GameStop when I was working there. But it was other GameStops they happened to be shopping at. Or I think one or two of them did actually have that happen to them at my GameStop. Because one of the employees was just kind of, piloting, going through it, and just giving everybody digital. Which was unfortunate because then we'd have people come in and complain about not getting their magazine in the mail, and we'd see, oh, well, it looks like you're switched to digital, and they'd be like, we didn't do that. So, I'm going to give them all of the Game Informers that they've missed if we still have them, or at least give them the newest one that I can to try to make amends for some other coworker being a douche and just trying to get his numbers up. And then have to call Power Up Awards and go through all this crap because we couldn't really do it on our computer. It's such a pain in the ass. And that was definitely the worst thing our employees broke the rules on, was just that. It's like, really? Like, you care that much about your numbers? You're not gonna help these people? You're not gonna give them a chance to pick what they would prefer? I know that's not a big thing to a lot of people. It's just a magazine. But it's just like taking away that choice from people, and then realizing, oh, it's all screwed up and I have to deal with the support line that's going to take like a half an hour to fix it. It was just messed up. And same with the moving pre-orders. Now you can't do that because the app exists and it tells you what's pre-ordered. What I don't like is that it doesn't tell you how much money you have on your pre-order anymore. At least I don't see it anymore in the app. It used to tell me exactly how much money I had on every single game when you pre-ordered, all that kind of stuff. And that really did prevent stealing. So I'm really wondering why GameStop has decided to revert it to just knowing what games are pre-ordered. Maybe it's been updated again. I don't know. I haven't pre-ordered a game in forever from GameStop. Last game was The Division 2, and the last game before that was... I don't even know. It was a long time before that. The only reason I got the Division 2 from GameStop was because I had a ton of trading credit. So those are some of the rules that really came to mind. Like I said, most of these were kind of minor rules that really weren't that big of a deal. And I, again, was one of those people that, I participated in some of the rule breaking. I mean, I was turning down the volume on things, and I was just trying to make working there a less miserable experience and make shopping there a less miserable experience, because that's one of my number one reasons I hate GameStop is because of how loud it is in there. You're in this tiny cramped store and you've got this TV blaring with the surround sound. It's like, what are you doing? Turn it down. And the thing is that most GameStop stores don't have the ability to turn down the TV. Our GameStop, for some reason, was like the only one I'd ever worked at that actually had a volume dial. So we were lucky that we had that, and I took full advantage of that, and I don't regret that at all. So anyway, let me know if you guys liked the video. Leave a like down below, subscribe for more content, and comment down below if you know of any coworkers of yours that broke the rules. I'm sure I could probably do this for Walmart as well, but I would definitely want Eric there for that. Or maybe Eric and Steven, because I'm sure they've known quite a few people and they've participated in that as well. Thanks again for watching, and as always, have a fantastic day. See you guys. So unfortunately, I will not be streaming tonight. If I do, it won't be for very long, because I am going to my dad's house. I don't have like an amazing reason. He's just gone a lot, so it's cool to be able to see him when I can. But Eric and I will be streaming on Thursday for sure. Oh, I thought I had the game near me. Yoshi's Crafted World. So that'll be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to playing that. We loved Woolly World just because it's got really adorable graphics, and it just makes you feel happy. I love Woolly World. And Yoshi's Crafted World looks the same way. So I'm really looking forward to that.